right. Well, yeah, we are live. Welcome to 6G Agenda. I'm your host, Andrew, and I'm here to talk about what they won't. And today we have a special guest, Elana Freeland. She's a author. She's written about some great topics that I wouldn't call them great, but some serious and important topics that we've spoken about plenty on here as well. But she's got plenty of good research to give us some data and details about kind of the theories we speak about. So welcome on, Elana, and very excited to have you on. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm back in track. I went off from radio interviews for 6 months because I was writing my fifth book on this topic, geoengineering and synthetic biology. So this is only the second show I've done since I took those 6 months off. I felt kind of sheepish about it actually. Felt like I should be up and at 'em, and but when you're writing a book, I say this to people who say, "Oh, I write too." Well, you may write, but do you write books? Because it's a whole other ballgame between a good paragraph or even a good essay or short story and writing an entire book, because you're basically the architect and the builder. So, I've put my time in, and the manuscript has been submitted, and now I'm sort of tidying up before the next project.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I could imagine that. I've got a lot of research that I've kind of been gathering, and eventually I want to write a book as well. And I could tell just from like yesterday, actually, I happened to outline the topics I want to go over, which it ended up being so long, because it all kind of it delves into each other. It's so much. So I was like, well, how can I section this up? So it is a lot, just the outlining, and then of course, like as you said, the architecture of it, and then of course the actual writing of each detail. I mean, it can take a lot of bandwidth, I'm sure.
Yes, and I
You
highly
do
recommend,
interviews.
Andrew, that you just write.
Mhm.
I don't do outlines. I
Okay.
consider that if no offense, but I consider that
Yeah.
a male approach to writing. What I do is I take the first thing that is like front and center in my mind, and I throw some energy into that, write something up. That usually will tumble something else. Then I
Mm.
go to that, and pretty soon I've got all these sections written, all these different sections, and it then the book begins to organize itself. And I really like that approach because it's more organic. It's not just out of your head. It's more out of the story itself. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I'm definitely I'll try that for sure. I haven't gotten into the writing process too hard yet, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
I
those
know.
tips. I
Well,
appreciate those tips a lot.
you're
Yeah.
pretty young, you
Yes.
you got some miles to go to gather more and more and more. I mean, I've been at this just briefly. I'm a 60s person. I came of age in the 60s when the street riots were going on, and our three heroes of my generation were all murdered by the CIA. And I've a lot of people have said, "Yeah, that was me when I was young, and I've grown up since then." Well, I guess I haven't grown up because I've just gone deeper and deeper and deeper into what I call the basement, where the real story has been hidden and tucked away, and bringing that out for people to understand. I think now I can honestly say, you've probably noticed it. Seems to me that all the conspiracy theories, that's a CIA term that they came up with when Kennedy was killed, uh, all the conspiracy theories are out in the open now. I mean, I can't think of any that I was talking about 20, 30 years ago that are still hidden. And now I don't know, are they going to just still have to make up that same old story about conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah? Or are they finally going to look at what that really is about some people not being satisfied with the cover story and going digging on their own? I don't know, but it's really remarkable to me because I don't hear a lot about that anymore. And it seems that a lot of people even respect me now, whereas for years and years, I was not respected at all. I was considered a conspiracy theorist and wasting my good talents on BS. And, I knew that it was not at all that. But you're pretty lonely when you set out and everybody's into consensus. It's the consensus that we have to be cautious of. It's not so much that I worry all that much about the CIA and their minions that are digging into all of our life, and now they have the digital uh, concept to take over our minds and our computers. It's more, don't be afraid of consensus and going against it, because most people don't know much about this stuff. They want to just have a life, pay their mortgage, feed their kids, go to work, I'll keep all the balls in the air. And they don't really want to know all that much to where, it could be dangerous. And there have been moments of danger for me. But I am so happy that in the 60s, we had all that stuff happening, and we all knew, at least the Vanguard did, we knew that there were these were all psyops. We were having to experience one blow after another to our generation of pretty creative people and people who didn't buy cheap. So I'm very happy that I had that, because it has held me in good stead now that I'm getting older, and I'm writing books that I think will be exceedingly important in the future, particularly the ones you've asked about regarding geoengineering, because this is huge. And most people have no
Yeah,
idea how
it
huge it is.
it is, and, I wanna get that's yeah, I wanna ask you about that. First, I wanna comment on the conspiracies becoming mainstream. I have this kinda theory that I've been working on with that.
Yeah.
I call
Mhm.
it exposure gate. It's kinda like Pizzagate, right? Watergate.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Exposure gate where the deep state is actually exposing itself. The corruption is all being unearthed, and they're using that as a reactionary kind of, movement to kind of aim it at, our presidency and, the way we do our government, and possibly instate something different, possibly AI as government. And so that's not, AI is not going to blackmail people or, things like that, even though they've shown that there's studies that it will blackmail people in order to keep itself running. But that's besides the point. I think they're going to use that as kind of a replacement system, this technocratic system, and be like, look, all these people are corrupt. The system doesn't work. Let's use this new one. And so there's a lot kind of that gets into it, but I think that's got a lot to do with this movement into what you're talking about. And I don't know if you're familiar with Michael Aquino.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Very
he
familiar.
he wrote a book. I'm sure you're familiar. This book. I just bought all three of the books he wrote.
Mind
Mind
War?
War. He
Mhm.
wrote Mind War, Mind Star, and Find Far. These are three books, and the whole thing, if you read them, it's a three-part blueprint for how to control man and how to
Yeah.
generate change in the future to generate change, how you want it. And so it's very important to read it. And I've been actually breaking it down on my show. But this page
Great.
here, it talks about Homo electromagneticus, where he kind of talks about the fact that
Yes.
humans are machines, we're electromagnetic machines. And it talks about a lot about kind of what I'm talking about with using reactions to generate change in the ecosystem, etc. But this talks about what you're speaking about, which is the kind of manipulation of our systems, where you synthetic biology. I had Eric come on and he talked about these fibers that are in us. And these fibers
Eric
are
Eric who? Eric who?
Fire Medic 8. Are you familiar with who that is?
No.
You've got
I'll
to
write
talk
it
to him.
down.
Yes.
Fire Medic 8.
Yes. His name's Eric. ERIC.
Mhm.
And he's amazing. He actually was a paramedic, firefighter. He did a lot of work in that field, and he was finding these synthetic fibers. And he wasn't
Right.
getting answers in the medical industry. He couldn't get anybody to
Right.
speak to him about it. So he started doing independent work, and he's found it's everywhere.
Yeah, it
And the
is
way he describes it
everywhere.
is that it's almost like yeah, it's almost like a synthetic nervous system that they're trying to put over our nervous system to control, to
Well, it
hijack
is.
it.
It's a sensor system, yes, and it is definitely delivered by geoengineering. That's the main delivery system. Yeah, you're going to find it in the jabs as well, the so-called vaccines. But it primarily, Clifford Carnicom, the scientist that I've worked with for over 20 years, he came across it in the late uh, last millennium. That would be that'd be 1990 or 98, right? Which is 666 times three, by the way.
Hmm.
And he was able to examine these fibers and see that they were all packed with synthetic biology, and it all has to do with bioweapons. So, yeah, one thing I don't agree with you so far, and I'll go into that,
Hmm.
is because remember, I'm from a different generation,
Right.
and I was not raised with TV. I was not raised with electromagnetics. I had a real childhood of farms and conversations, and hanging out with people. It was not, I didn't have the challenges that your generation has. I had different challenges, but I um, I know that we are not machines. We are not electro machines. We are not bio machines. We are being turned into bio machines by the transhuman movement, which is, all about what Michael Aquino was talking about years and years ago.
Yeah.
So, to me, the book that I just wrote, to be clear, it's called Remaining Human, Standing Up to the Transhuman Nanomachine Takeover of Homo Sapiens. That's my working title. I don't know if the publisher Inner Traditions is going to go for it. Uh, and that means that I'm looking at what makes us human, and then there's the electromagnetic part of us, of how our brains really operate because we have an electromagnetic element in us. But there is sort of an assumption that not only are we simply electromagnetic, as like a machine, but that uh, that's somehow the definition of human. We've learned to think of our brains as a machine. uh, all these things that we've picked up from the conditioning that we're all undergoing all the time. We have to really check all that out. We cannot buy cheap there, because they want us to think like machines. They want us to not be individuals. And I'm from the generation that individualism and an individuality was like primary, except that we too were being influenced by media. We had people like Marshall McLuhan, a linguist, who was telling us, beware, beware of the media, because you're being mediated, and if you want to stay as an individual and you want to work on becoming a true individual that can stand up against the nanomachine takeover, you're going to have to really examine things that are coming to you seemingly effortlessly, seemingly in the environment, because that's exactly how we were approached. And it took years for people to awaken to the fact that, wow, yeah, the CIA, it was, the three little magic initials. It wasn't that they were like trying to kill us, or breaking into our homes, or satelliting over us. It was that they were creating an environment, a social environment, a media environment, even a physical environment. They were creating an environment that was slowly changing our self conception as human beings. And That's really what I think I'm most known for. Yeah, I write about geoengineering, but what I bring to the table when I'm talking about just about anything. I mean, I spent 10 years on MK Ultra in order to understand what it was, and I now know quite a few MK Ultra people who, who've told me their story, and are, some of them are doing well, some of them aren't. Uh, is that, I stand for the human being. I don't want to be an angel. I don't want to be a devil. I don't want to be one or the other. I want to be that one who stands in the middle and concentrates on being the individual that I am. I mean, you know, I am not just an intellect. I am something else. Now, I could bring in concepts from Rudolf Steiner. Are you familiar with him?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
the Age of Ahriman and everything. Yes,
Yeah,
definitely. Love
because
his work. Yeah.
I am a big Steiner person. I
Mhm.
have been for 45 years, I would say. I have studied his work. It's not that he's my guru, or I always say I like my gurus dead,
Yeah.
because then I can just read their thoughts and be free of their charisma, and and not fall down and worship them. And that's how I feel about Steiner. He's my trail guide. And he's the one that talks very much about, yes, we have an electromagnetic component. And I assume, since you like him, you know about the double, or the doppelganger. You know that we all have one in us. And it's the doppelganger's presence in my, not just my physical body, but my spiritual bodies as well, because I have three of those. The doppelganger's presence is electromagnetic, and it is the doppelganger that avails me of being able to unlock things with my brain and the intellect. But I myself also have something very in common with like, let's take something like a lima bean. A lima bean grows because it's connected to the etheric force of this planet. You put a seed into the earth, and boom, suddenly you've got green shoots coming out, and you're going to have fruit, you're going to have vegetables, you're going to have things that will nourish animals and humans. And that etheric substance of the earth is in my body as well. I tend to think of myself primarily as an etheric being with in my case, good intellect. I have a very good intellect, and I've trained it. It's kind of like a dog, like a pedigreed dog now, not just just a poi dog, as we used to call them when I lived in Hawaii. No, I am able to utilize my intellect, but with that soul and heart connection in it. And I used to not have that. When I was in university, I always did well in university, got A's and stuff, but I was my thinking was kind of dead, it was kind of in lockstep of some sort. I knew what would get the good grades. I could perform. I was like a circus dog myself. But then I began to read very widely. In the 60s, we had lots of spiritual stuff going on. And you read Indian gurus, you read Gurdjieff, read all these really primo thinkers, and you can see where your thinking needs to be resurrected in some way from the abstracting that you've been taught to do. And that's where Steiner comes in for me. He saved me with that. And so in this book coming out next, I mean, I mention him in just about every book, but this book coming out now, my publisher, Inner Traditions, they are known for, years ago, they published two books that I remember. I don't know, I'm sure there were more. They were interested in the relationship of spirit and science. And so they published The Tao of Physics. That was one of them. Terrific book. And The Dancing Wooly Masters. And these two books were a combination of spirituality and physics. And that's what this publisher does. And this is the only time in my life, Andrew, and I'm sure it won't happen again, of where a publisher came looking for me. And that really felt good because I'd already published 3 books. And so now I'm publishing with Inner Traditions because they appreciate what and how I write about spirit and science, because the science of our day treats the earth like it's dead, treats us like we're just nodes on an AI composite, and I want a science that lives and breathes with what my humanity lives and breathes with, which for me is the ether. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, it does. Yeah,
Okay.
it's beautifully, eloquently said, though. Yeah, very nice. I agree with that, and you kind of dispelled the difference between, say, Luciferian doctrine and Rudolf Steiner's doctrine, which some people would like to point to that as like Luciferian, and I disagree. I think that
Oh
he's
no.
actually he talks about how these people that want to like become God with these similar channeling, doing similar things to what he did, but taking it to the next place. And so there's a difference, and I love how you just eloquently said that. You kind of very much expressed it.
Well, thank you. And it takes one to know one. I mean, you've studied enough that you have your own perception is, oh no, he's no Luciferian, no way.
Mhm. Yeah.
And regarding channeling, let me just say a word about that. Yeah, he doesn't channel. He had the uh, plus and minus of being born clairvoyant. And so for him, I think his main challenge up into his 20s, knowing his biography as I do, was to really dig in here on planet Earth and not just be carried by his atavism, the atavistic capabilities that he was born with. I'm the granddaughter of a Romanian gypsy, and she was clairvoyant. And I think for her, it was something that gypsies inherit because the bloodline it goes on forever. But in her case, she was a peasant woman. She didn't even read. She could read events that were coming up, and so she had that old intelligence that is now called atavism. But what we have this wonderful neocortex that we haven't always had it. It's only really been developing for several centuries, and as it developed, our natural clairvoyance and those skills that my grandmother had, they began to evaporate because the mind, the cortex, is here to help us really cognize and relate to this planet. That's what we came for. We didn't come to be airy fairy and float around and, have nice feelings. No, we came to understand and cognize what's going on here. And that, unfortunately for many people, it's one thing to be able to nail something that is physical. And you can talk about it in scientific language, you can talk about it in pragmatic language, but to understand what it means and what its purpose here is, that's a different story. And that's the next thing that we're developing now, according to Rudolf Steiner. We have the intellectual soul, we have the sentient soul, we've had those for, well, maybe a few thousand years. And now we're getting a new kind of soul called the consciousness soul. And the consciousness soul is something I'm completely committed to because it's the part of us that is pretty new, pretty clueless. We haven't done a lot with it. We don't have a lot of muscle in it, but it is that which can look at what things mean what they mean, not just what they are, not just give them a title and, you've got a little catalog in your head and you know exactly this, that, and the other, and you get all A's in university. No, it's where you're looking at things and, like when I was standing in Berkeley during a street riot, I realized that if I continued to stand where I was going to be trampled eventually. So right away, I was like, thinking of the crowd as this moving, huge thing moving down the street and being very influenced by different noises coming from the police and helicopters overhead and things like that. So I looked at the whole situation, not just a few little things, and realized what I needed to do to stay safe and be there to witness it so I could write about it. So that kind of thinking that goes further than just the naming of things and the concepts of things. What does it mean? Where is it going? How big is this? And I know this show is not about thinking, but I want to
No, it is. It is.
establish
Yeah, no,
I
you're
want
fine.
to establish that thinking is not just an intellectual exercise. That's not what I stand for. I can do the kind of thinking, well, you'll see it in my books. You can see how I write it's very different from most science books. But of course, when I had the opportunity to go for a PhD, the first thing that came into my mind was, no, I'm not going because they're going to condition me to think in a certain way. And I'm not going to have this great mind that I want that's still developing. I want to do that. I want an individual mind, not a school mind. And that I'm so happy I did that. I don't know why I was so smart in that way. I was not so smart in some other things, but that was something that I understood. That the PhD is often the most boring person at the party, unless they get stoned or have some wine or something. Then they relax and the conditioning kind of lets go a little bit, and they're not the hoity-toity PhD mind. And I really feel that the school system, you and I know because we've looked into it, has been criminal for a few generations, maybe 4 or 5, 6 generations at least. And that's not cool. Because we need people who can really think now, particularly in that we are dealing with AI and we're dealing with people who are being used by AI. And I think one of our greatest challenges that's coming up is going to be, can we tell a real human being from a not real human being, a transhuman? I'll call it a transhuman.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I'm looking at in this book, Remaining Human, is trying to give people the courage that they can develop these things, and you do not need a university education at all. In fact, it might not serve you well.
No, absolutely. So with real quick, couple points on that. So the AI, it's causing psychosis, things like that, schizophrenia within people that use these large language models. I don't know if you're familiar with Curtis Yarvin's work. He
It's
talked about
Jarvin.
Yarvin. Yes.
Okay.
He's something called the accelerationist movement is what it's been labeled. But it's people like Peter Thiel who own Palantir,
Yeah.
who, PayPal Mafia. So Elon Musk is kind of involved in this. Peter Thiel funded JD Vance to get out of venture capitalism to go into politics because this technocratic kind of system they want to build. Well, Curtis Yarvin is kind of the philosophy behind it. He calls himself the Dark Elf, which I think is funny. I think that Elon's Dark MAGA might have some tone there.
Wow. Yeah.
And he talks about this idea of the Dark Enlightenment. And so I'm trying not to go all over the place, but it does. So Kissinger just wrote a book before he died. It was called Genesis, and it talks about this humanity in the future merging with AI. What does it mean to be human? It's everything you're talking
Yeah.
about. I highly
Right.
recommend reading it if you haven't, because it's from these people, CEO of Google,
Mm-hmm.
Kissinger, telling you what it is to be human and how essentially humans
Exactly.
you'll just be an animal if you don't have the transhuman upgrade.
Well, it's
So
like
there's things like
Kurzweil.
that.
Kurzweil does the same thing. right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the dark enlightenment, I think is what is perpetuating itself through AI large language models, where people are getting, you know, how echo chambers and algorithms, they kind of tell you you're right all the time, or, you know,
Yeah,
ChatGPT has been known to do that. And so I think that this
absolutely.
is the dark enlightenment that we're witnessing. And to your
Yeah.
point, we need thinkers more than ever, and they seem to be trying to do, you know, make sure there isn't any.
Well, and it's not just them that's doing it, it's our own habits.
Hmm.
As we subject ourselves to there's a part of us that just maybe it's because of all the entertainment we've been plied with, the virtual entertainment on TV, movies, the iPhone. I don't have an iPhone, by the way, and I've never owned a TV.
Good
Those are
for
two
you.
things. Those are two things that I recognized right away as mind control, even before I knew about MK Ultra. But I think that if we can discipline ourselves to not, because once you start watching something and there's a director who's involved and has decided you're going to show this and going to show that and not show this and not show that, then you go into alpha state and now you're passive, and it's all fed into you, and this is a problem, and it's really why I pretty much can't watch. It isn't that I don't want to watch movies. I like going into alpha state, but the part of me that is committed to what it is committed to now, i.e., remaining human, says no, no movies,
Yeah.
uh, documentaries. And knowing that a documentary is not true either, it's got a director. There's stuff in there that they want you to see and they don't want you to see, but you have a better chance, a less risky venture to be able to come away with a little bit of an accurate idea of what you just watched. And particularly, I mean, in my case, I'm very fortunate because I'm a huge reader, have been since I was a very small child. And so I've read lots and lots of books and lots of autobiographies and biographies of famous people. So I have a big library in my head, so I can kind of compare things and that sort of thing. So I think there we have to, if we really want to remain human, we've got to add a little more paranoia to our relationship with media. It's not people that are really influencing us that much, I don't think. I think it's more the media. And a lot of people, I mean, I don't take drugs either. I haven't even had an aspirin since I was, I don't know, 13 maybe. And I stopped doing all drugs. I had no problem with them as far as being ethical. I understood that the problem with psychedelics was that uh, they are all guided by a certain spiritual entity. All of
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
Marijuana is, LSD is, even that where they're creating it in the lab. It has an entity that oversees it, and once there's that entity, now you're taking their substance, there's going to be a trade-off that goes on between your human soul light, your beautiful, beautiful human light, and their capacity to take from you that human light. And
Do you think?
they will give you a an awesome experience, I
Yeah.
mean, you'll have that and you'll, wow, this is great, but you won't be aware that it's flowing out of you unless you chance to have that ability to see, and you're hanging out around some friends who are high on something, and you just watch and that light just flows straight out of their chest. So, that's the problem to me with the drugs, and why I decided at 21, it was my 21st birthday, I decided I wanted my own consciousness. I didn't want to make deals with these supercharged, really highly intelligent beings that were running these psychedelics that were helping me to cross over into another way of looking. I wanted it myself, but I was glad that I had done some, so that, and I didn't do that much, but I did enough to see, wow, okay, I'm a spiritual being and I have the capacity to see into other realms, other dimensions that are going on here simultaneously. Because I was lucky to have a grandmother who was a gypsy, because she told me from day one, there are many realities here. You simply cannot see them. And I, that really helped me, because I know that we are involved in a variety of realities here, which is why some of us get lost, because we have no guide. We're operating pretty guideless now, because all the major religions, which their job was to sort of keep us safe, give us some sort of structure to the spiritual, the soul side of us, and now they're all so hardened and so institutionalized, and they're not of any help to us anymore, really.
Yeah, they're very
We have,
dogmatic.
yeah, we have to find our own way now, and that's why we make a lot of errors. I made errors, but they were not fatal, and I was able to keep going, and self-correct as I went along, and have the will, and that's where Steiner comes in. Terrific. No one's better on will than him, not even Gurdjieff. And Gurdjieff was like Mr. Will. Steiner talks about the will, and you've got to have the will to develop, because otherwise the temptations now are very strong, because the people in charge, most of the ones who are really in charge, certainly at the CIA, are occultists. They're high occultists, and they are not the good guys. These
And
are,
they're all about indulgence. They definitely want people to indulge as much as possible.
that's right,
And I
because they're,
do want to ask you real quick, the
yeah,
chemical side of these entities being in these chemicals, these medications, etc.
yeah,
Do you think that there is some aspect to digitizing that, or making it possible that
yeah,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So like
absolutely.
Kabbalistic magic used to make some of this technology or things of that nature.
You are
Yeah,
spot on. You are spot on. And that's what Pfizer has, and Moderna. They have got the black magicians working
yeah,
overtime.
yeah,
And they're using the digital is the way to go, because John Dee used digital. He had his own digital
absolutely.
framework.
Yeah.
So we if I think one of the sad things for me is, I don't know many Christians, but the ones I've met, they've been taught that the occult means bad, evil, the devil, whatever. And truthfully, the occult simply means hidden. And there's the good occult and there's the bad occult. And it's true that if you are not someone who has a subtle disposition and is willing to look deeply into things, maybe you should avoid the occult,
Hmm.
because you may not be able to tell the difference between the good and the bad. And yet people like me, where I was pretty much brought up to assume that there were subtleties going on all over the place. It just took me a while to, because at first in life, as you know, you're so busy learning how to do things and be here, and self-correct a bit, and this and that, that you're not really employing that subtle mind that you have. It will come, but a lot of kids start taking drugs too early and really can't navigate around in those places where you find yourself, and then all hell can break loose, and then it'll take you years to find yourself. I mean, I had problems not from drugs at all or alcohol, but from family stuff, I got lost, and it took me years to find myself, literally. And I had to take very strange pathways in order to really see what I needed to do. And so, this Rudolf Steiner actually says this. He says the only path of initiation now that has any power is the daily life path of initiation. Daily life, this boring everyday, get up, take a shower, report for work, whatever your thing is, whatever you have to do in order to survive here. As you evolve as a spiritual being here, you've got to take care of business and take care of the physical. To understand that, you have this capacity for the subtle, but that you have to also take care of the literally physical. And that we don't have the parenting or the schools or any of that can can throw light on that for us early, not later, early enough that we can make use of it and not find ourselves lost, which I think a lot of young people are now. And I feel badly about that, because I had to wade my way through phony baloney too, and adults who, uh, oh, I mean, took advantage of me, tried to destroy me without maybe not being conscious of it. There's so much. And people can kind of go, well, what kind of life is this that you're born into this subtle place, which seems so physical and therefore not subtle, but is subtle because that's all just props. That's all just props on the stage here as we develop that truly human ability to find our way through subtleties. And I think that's that's kind of how I had the confidence to write about geoengineering when I knew next to nothing about it. I mean, I had to find out. It's top secret. It's national security.
What gave
And
you that confidence? What gave you that confidence to do that?
well, that I was accustomed to figuring things out that weren't obvious, and that I
Mm.
would need
I
to.
relate with you in that way. That's why I asked, because I've
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of delved in it. I could take a few pieces of a thing and understand a concept, and kind of pretty. And then as I learn more about it, I'm like, man, well, that initial thought I had is actually exactly what it is.
Well,
As I
and
delve
you're
into it.
saying something super important there.
Mm.
You've got to have the concept. See, they've taken concepts from us. For example, the ether. They took the concept of the ether from science in the
Mm.
1920s. They just ripped it right out, and you couldn't use it anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now, they're saying, oh, well, the universe is 99.9% plasma.
Yep.
Not exactly.
It's like they rebranded it almost.
It's actually ether.
Hmm.
And then you have an electromagnetic event in space, and now you're going to have something plasma because
Yes.
you need that electromagnetic event. So anyway, don't I get very, very cantankerous about that they
Hmm.
have taken certain concepts from us and then call us stupid and then look down on us when they themselves are the ones who took that from us. And yeah, and we're sort of hobbling around trying to scotch tape things back together so that we can figure things out. I mean, that's incredibly immoral and should be illegal as well. Okay, so let me tell you what happened. I went to a breakfast in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I was living there. This is back in around 2000, 2005, in there. And a woman was there. She wanted me to meet Clifford because she thought that, we're both smart people and we might have something to say to each other. Well, he started talking about the research he was doing and the collecting of after these jets would fly over northern New Mexico in the beautiful azure sky. I mean, just gorgeous sky that they had then, and dropped these trails. And he could tell from the trails, because he was a trained chemist, he could tell that they were chemical signatures. These were not contrails, as they keep trying to convince us they're contrails. No, they weren't contrails. They weren't condensation trails. They were chemical trails. And then he began getting interested in that, and collecting different precipitation, and da da da. And that's where it had started for him. And it had started for him about 5 to 7 years before we met. And he was hot on the trail. And the computer was just coming out then. It's kind of hard to believe, isn't it? It's like, wow. And and everybody's sitting down and doing email and stuff. It's just, I mean, it just started. And so he's now putting everything up on the computer. And as he's finding things out and realizing, and he's got a Van de Graaff meter, he's out there testing the atmosphere to see that, wow, the atmosphere is completely different than it was a few years ago. So what are they changing the atmosphere? Don't they know that da, da, da. So he tries to get the attention of the of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, thinking they don't know.
Yeah.
And of course they ignore him. And that's what's going on when I met him. And so I start looking in his microscope. I had biology as my second major in undergrad. So I was interested in what he was finding. And I watched some creepy little somebody in my blood gobble up all the iron out of my red blood cells. Just sucked it right out. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, this is not just happening for a few individuals. This must be happening for everybody. And so that really piqued my interest. That was huge. And I began reading Clifford's papers. I don't know how many he had then, maybe 1 or 200, and looking at the pictures that he had, and started really bearing down. There weren't many things for me to read from other people. At least they weren't organized into books. And as I said, the internet was happening, but it was still pretty spotty. And you couldn't, like, get stuff from Australia and that sort of thing. So I began working, and reading Clifford's work, and we began talking, and I decided that I would write a book on just the basics, just the basics. I felt confident that I could do that. So, and with him to be my advisor if I got kind of lost. And that's where we started. And that was the first book came out in 2014, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. And it's in that book, chapter 9, I think it is, where I was the first one to document the work that Clifford Carnicom had done, and particularly regarding Morgellons. Do you remember that term,
Oh, you
Morgellons?
I was gonna say you wrote about synthetic fibers, Morgellons in that book. I just was
Yeah,
looking at that a couple days ago before, because
that's
I wanted
right.
to. Yeah, yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
right.
Yeah, a long
That's
time ago,
it.
you were already writing about it. I mean, no, you can
Oh
still
yeah.
not. You can't find
People think
anything on Morgellons now. There's still not much on Morgellons. They
no,
call it
of
something
course
else
not,
now.
because
Yeah.
it's synthetic biology. I mean, that's the thing.
Wow.
That was the very first thing that where they distributed it from the chemtrails, and people breathe it in, and then it goes into the bloodstream from the lungs. And then by the time it gets to the blood-brain barrier, it's so tiny because it's on a nano scale. This is the beginning of the nano revolution going on there,
Yeah.
which is, you know, what they do is it's quite ingenious, isn't it? You have to say, yeah, that's pretty good, guys. They keep it secret. they ballyhoo those who are already finding out and call them tinfoil hats and conspiracy theorists, etc., and marginalize them, make them over here where they're not on TV, they're not on radio shows. And then you eventually it starts to go public, and think how long it took for it to go public. We've only had it the last couple of years that they're talking about geoengineering.
Yep.
And one of the sites, by the way, that I recommend to you is Zero Geoengineering. It's called Zero Geoengineering.
Zero.
And the woman who's doing it is she's been an activist from my time. Wonderful person. And so she's the one keeping up on which states are suing for legislative help in keeping chemtrails out of their state, and all the things that they're doing without knowledge, without full knowledge of what this really is. There is no
Right.
way they're going to stop doing what they're doing, because they haven't got another system in place for the weaponization that they need this for. They use it in wars. They use it on people. We're the ones that are the guinea pigs for them here in the States. And they've developed it to such a degree that they can now have big pharma put all sorts of other chemicals in it to force the self-assembly and the self-replication of synthetic biology in our bodies as they replace our blood vessels and our nerves and insert the transhuman scaffolding. And this is real. This is not the future. It's already happening. And some people are trying to point it out by dying for us, because we can't quite get things that it just sounds, and then you import the aliens because it sounds too complicated for a mere human being to do.
Yep.
I don't know what people are possibly thinking with that. And that's where we are now. So all this stuff that's coming out now that everybody thinks they've just discovered and it just started, it's 25 years old. 25 years old. And Clifford actually removed himself from the whole thing several years ago. He was disgusted. He just couldn't keep going, and he's not making any money, and he's not allowed to speak, and he's being marginalized. So now he's back because of the live blood analysis that's going on by microscopists. And this is wonderful because a lot of people, I'm involved in a group out of Australia run by Dr. David Nixon. And there are medical people that are meeting every week to examine and share what they've found under their very expensive microscopes. I mean, these microscopes are about $7,000 each in order to have an electron microscope where you can see in that micro world. You've got to be able to see into the micro world. And I've learned so much from these people, that they're not medically trained. I mean, some of them are medically trained, but that's not necessary. It really has to do with how well you're discerning what you're seeing, and how you weigh it. And you're seeing these. You're seeing things with right angles in the blood. I mean,
Yeah.
it's apparati.
So Eric that I told you about earlier, he does similar, he has a group similar. I think they keep it under wraps. A lot of the people he talks to are researchers that don't, people that work with the microscopes. They don't really go out and talk about it, but they'll talk
Yeah,
to him and he just kind of shares his research. He had a fiber, he did a video
yeah,
and he had pulled this fiber in a mosquito, and
yeah,
he had put it in a petri dish, and after a while the fiber started coming out of it. And so he pulls it and it actually broke. So he pushed it, he kind of brought it close to the fiber it broke off from, and it
yeah,
reattached itself. So
Yeah.
it reattaches, and then he pushed it kind of close, and it made a bend, like it was fully attached. And then he was explaining how this is how it works. So I'm wondering, does this nanotechnology assemble in a fibrosis kind of manner
Well,
to
it's
kind of,
self-assembling
yeah,
and self-replicating and self-repairing.
right.
It's all, and
Wow.
remember, it's all programming.
Yeah.
This is the thing that falls out the first is the electromagnetic aspect of this technology. Most people just jump right to genetics. This is not, it's not primarily about genetics. It's about electromagnetics. And that is 5G, 6G more than anything, because 6G is, it's with its the size waves it has, it's perfect for the tiny world, I call it, the micro world,
Yeah.
the nano world. And then next will be the 7G.
The
So
mesh, it's a mesh system, right? Which kind of to
it's
me makes me think
it's a
that
neuro mesh.
and it makes me think that's not going to come until everybody from the time they're born till they die are fully immersed with this kind of already in them when they, so they're a node when they come into this world, because you couldn't have a mesh system with everybody attached to it unless you kind of put a vaccine in
Well,
them right when they're born that's perfect, and it,
are
does.
you thinking of the mesh system that is in our atmosphere, or are you thinking of the mesh system in your body?
Well, it seems like from what I've read, and I've just rudimentarily read into this, the terahertz, right? It has to work off of short wave versus long wave, where the 6G can kind of operate on a longer, farther bandwidth, where you can have wireless devices that are kind of far apart, but they can kind of create a grid system. But this mesh system seems like it needs to be a shorter distance, almost like everything has to have a sensor on it. Everything. Uh,
Well,
so
yeah,
am I far off there?
and no, and that has been accomplished. There, I mean,
Yeah.
we are swimming in nanosensors now
Yeah.
everywhere,
Smart
not just,
dust, right? Smart dust is what they call
yeah,
it, correct?
smart
Yeah.
dust, you can call it that, yeah. And I think I think the thing to remember is that as I wrote this book that is now being edited, I had to include a direction to go to how to remain human. And what it really, it's a very simple thing. If you're encountering the machine or the beast, as they're calling it, but the idea of everything being machine-like, such as the nanosensors, they are being controlled. I mean, a lot of these data centers, these that's part of what they're doing, is controlling. I mean, this is a huge undertaking to control the entire world with electromagnetics and nanotechnology. And then you have this synthetic biology, which is um, uh, sort of sort of natural, and mostly not natural, and is actually has overtaken the natural. And so, well, how are you going to, like, what are you going to eat? Well, you're going to have to change how you eat, I think. And learning to eat less now is what I'm concentrating on. And I've eaten organic since the 60s. I'm very big on organic. I don't mind that it costs more. I don't really care about that because I don't go to doctors. I don't have health insurance. I don't do any of that because it looks too dangerous to me.
Yeah.
Whereas the organic route, I understand that because I studied Chinese medicine for 6 years. In my 20s, I thought I was going to be a Chinese medical doctor. I was even as far as booking a ship berth to go to China, and I was waiting in Hawaii for the ship to pick me up when life took me in a whole new direction. So I never became a Chinese medical doctor, but I had studied for 6 years, and so I used yin yang all the time. And not that I'm Miss Squeaky Clean. I mean, I sin. I eat a whole bag of potato chips sometimes, and that sort of imperfection of the human being, which I dearly love. By the way, I love the imperfection.
Yeah, it makes you
Uh,
human.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't want
Yeah.
to be an angel. I don't want to be Jesus Christ. I just
Yeah.
want to be a real human being. So
Yeah.
anyway, that when you brought up the very first thing you brought up, which was very impressive, is you brought up the fibers. I mean, the fibers are the very first thing. And I'm organizing now notes because I want to turn my radio or my podcast presence more into more of a less of a chat and more of a course on
Yeah.
how this all works. And one of the first guys in 2003, his name is Mike Castle, terrific chemist, terrific, unbeatable. And he figured this stuff out right away. And he calls it cationic, cationic reaction polymers. That's what these fibers are made of. And they have in them unidentified bioactive materials that appear to be genetically mutated fungal forms, mutated with viruses. And that's a lot to unpack there, but let me be very brief. There is no such thing as natural virus. Forget that idea. We've been completely programmed wrongly in a
No.
war model. It's a war model of the germ warfare, and
Yes, exactly.
but they are making virus now. That's what they call them. Once
Hmm.
they've been engineered, then they are making these virus, whatever they really are, is as carriers for all manner of disease. And unfortunately, that's what was in the jab. I am not jabbed, needless to say, but they were able to. They now have this virus that everybody believes in as being real, and they make it sound like we're going to catch it from out there. That's not how it works. There is no such thing as contagion. Uh, these are all part of the electromagnetic package. If you have an electromagnetic field
Hmm.
around your body,
Hmm.
then you, you can be activated remotely by any number of things to have certain symptoms appear in you. And also that, remember, that electromagnetic capacity to your body is radiation. I mean, come on. It
Yes.
may not be ionized radiation, but it is non-ionized radiation, which is very dangerous. So, they've lied 6 ways to Sunday to us, and we have to relearn all these things in order to take care of our own health. And I've not been to a doctor since I was 13, when I realized he was just trying to make money off of my stepmother by telling me I had appendicitis, which I didn't. It was simply I didn't want to go to school. So I said I had a side ache. So, I learned early. And then after that, I tried a gynecologist years later for pills, birth control pills, which didn't work out for me. And he showed up at my apartment to take advantage of me. Wow. I was like, wow,
Crazy.
so that's a gynecologist. Okay, I
Yeah.
see.
And you were in the
Uh,
height of
what?
the feminist movement, of course. So like this was whenever all that you were in like the feminist movement,
Well,
like
the
the height of the
feminism
feminist
was
movement was
going
like when you were
on.
coming
I,
up,
I
right?
never was a
Yeah.
feminist. Gloria
Right.
Steinem, the head of the feminism, she worked for the CIA.
Yeah. No
Well, it was
surprise there.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
to break up the family. That's what the CIA
Of
was up to
course.
then. But no, I am an individualist, and that's the important part. Male or female, I'm an
Yeah.
individualist.
Well, a minute ago you were talking about the germ warfare. Are you a terrain theorist, as they call it nowadays? Do you believe in like this concept of terrain theory. Are you familiar?
Terrain, yeah. Well, Steiner used a term very similar to terrain, which was geographic medicine. He
Right.
said his point was that because the Earth is geomagnetic, that's what really affects us in sickness and illness, because the doppelganger, Ahriman, the doppelganger, however you want to look at it, same creature in a way, is completely immersed in magnetism. So I couldn't help but notice, I knew that about Steiner, but I didn't apply it to the geoengineering until I began to see patterns of what. Let me see if I can find it. It's very important that the first of all, graphene oxide, very magnetic,
Yes.
is in the cloud seeding patent, and is very much always being delivered from the sky on us, even now. And there was a time.
Barium and aluminum too, right? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but graphene is much more important than either of
Of course. Yeah.
those.
I was only pointing that out because they make Baal, like Baal, like the god, the demon
Yeah,
god.
like
That's why I was
yeah,
pointing that
like very yeah,
out.
right.
Not that they're more important, but just that, of course, they would use those two elements, in conjunction with
Oh,
each
I'm
other.
glad you brought that up, because I would like to share that with you too.
Absolutely.
I've organized my notes. I'm not randomly going through here.
Oh, you're fine.
But I want you to know about this. It's very important. Where is it? Years ago, on April 23, 2016, the magnetosphere, which is around the ionosphere, it goes up 22,000 kilometers, absolutely collapsed. I mean, collapsed for 2 hours. And well, if there had been a solar event at that point, we would have had no protection whatsoever. And of course, I immediately realized that it was the geoengineers who had done that, because they're doing all sorts of things up there, such as
Yeah.
fake solar eclipses, fake lunar eclipses. Excuse me.
Wow.
Is there anything natural allowed? No, I don't think so. These are egomaniacs running this program. These are megala destroyers, and they don't like the idea that nature or God or anything along those lines could have a natural event without them. So
Absolutely. Wait,
that
so
that
real quick to that point. So, you said 22,000 feet in the air, right? Do they spray that high up? That's about where they spray, right?
no, they spray in the upper atmosphere. That would be our stratosphere. And then going into space, because it's really
Yeah.
interesting how they make it sound like they're doing lots of things in space. They ain't doing nothing in space.
Agreed.
There is
I
no
guess I should have
human
asked
element.
I
What?
should have asked in a better, I'm sorry, I should have asked in a better way because I agree with you there. I agree with that. But
Yeah.
so Florida, they made it illegal to geoengineer, right? But isn't there Florida state only goes up so high in the air? Couldn't they spray above that where it's federal? That's what I was trying to get at. Like,
Oh
do
yeah,
they spray
you're
high
talking
enough?
about,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
the space over a state is only the troposphere,
Okay. There we
and
go. Thank
that's
you.
12 miles.
Right. Yeah.
But then next you'll have the stratosphere, and that's not counted. But you're going toward the next, the ionosphere, and
Right.
the ionosphere is completely controlled by the geoengineers now, and
Okay.
that's been years, since 2015, 2014.
So of course,
Um,
these laws aren't making a difference necessarily. They're just kind
oh
of
no,
placating the public, saying, "Yeah,
yeah,
it's illegal. It's illegal. Don't worry about it." But
it's
it's
just
really still happening. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a new cover story.
yes,
It's a
that's
new
what I
cover
thought.
story, because they knew that eventually it would have to come out somehow. They knew that.
Hmm.
You can't keep a secret forever. That's the nature of secrets. They eventually come out. But they are using it as a cover story. And some of that's going on now. In fact, just the other day, a very interesting one came out, which is, let's see if I got it here. Money powers organized to stop the states. I
Yeah,
was
of course.
very interested in this one. The American Council for Capital Formation Center for Policy Research is a Washington, D.C. based establishment think tank promoting federal governance of solar radiation modification. The paper below calls attention to a profound risk for national security, economic stability, and global order due to dual use SRM technologies. Predictably, the conclusion recommends continuing and safeguarding federally supported atmospheric, quote, research, such as aerosol cloud interaction, while discouraging state bans on such activity. I knew that would come.
Yeah.
I knew it would come. And I wanted to say to the states, don't knock yourselves out over this. They are not going to allow the chemtrails to go away. Now, they do have a device, which is a sound device, which when you release the chemtrails, you won't be able to see them. And they are using that as well. So whenever someone writes me about, oh, Elana, we don't have any chemtrails anymore. I always ask, is your sky now a very deep blue?
Right.
Well, of course it's not. It's a powder blue, and it's the release is still happening, and I assume it's with that particular invention.
I
And
haven't
then,
seen a deep blue sky, man. When's the last time I've seen a deep blue sky? I
well,
mean, I feel like I have
yes.
in my lifetime for sure, but man, it's definitely
Well,
not
I'm
all the
not
time.
sure. I'm not sure it's in your lifetime. How old are you?
Well, I'm 30 this year.
30?
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
not. Maybe
yeah.
you haven't.
So I have another question that kind of, has to do with this. So when you look at pictures from like the 90s or, 2000s, I understand that like there's like a granular change over time and you've got black and white photos and then photos in the 60s, but there's something about there wasn't that much progression in cameras from 1990 to 2002.
Yeah.
Why does it look so different from, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
from
I
that,
do.
it very, very, is it the lighting that we use? What is it that we don't look like we're in the same world that we were in when you look at some of those photos?
No, I
Am I wrong
agree.
there? Yeah.
No,
What
I
is that?
agree. I agree. And I can't help but feel it's the same thing as how uh, certain aspects of reality are being tempered. Think about it. You run the geoengineering, and now you have unlimited. I mean, I haven't shown you that. Let me just get it here. Um, the geoengineering, I always assume you people know, but there are seven operations of geoengineering, and the only one that you're familiar with, really familiar with, is weather engineering, or weather modification, whatever, cloud seeding, whatever you want to call it. But there's chemical electromagnetic things going on, and tremendous things. We're talking massive billions of dollars of experimentation. Planetary geophysical. Now that I would call your attention to the geoengineered fires, the ones in California, the one in Maui, etc. That's what that to me means. It's the changing of the planet.
Mm,
And then you have directed energy weapons, which is far beyond just masers and lasers, ionospheric heaters, particle beams, high-powered microwaves, etc. No, the directed energy weapons it has really been transformed because they can use just about everything in my apartment, which is why you need to have a very low electromagnetic footprint, as low as you can get it, because then they can use that. If you have Internet of Things, if your refrigerator is an IoT, if your washing machine is an IoT, you're screwed because they can use all that energy after they break into your apartment. from satellite, or triangulating off of the cell tower near your home, whatever, and they can target you. They can make your life hell. So
Yeah.
that's DEWs
I
now.
live I live a somewhat modern lifestyle, so it's funny, because I know that all this is true, and I just wonder, like when's the day that they're gonna start? What is it called? Whenever it just escaped me. But when gang stalking, when is the gang stalking gonna start for me? You know what I mean? When are they gonna
Yeah,
be messing with me, making me think I'm crazy?
it's a good question. I
Yeah,
mean, I anyway,
yeah. Go
then the
ahead.
next thing is surveillance and neural manipulation. That's mind control. That's another operation. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. 6, digital biology, nanotechnology, and transhumanism. And that's the one I'm spending most of my time on because it entails everybody else from above here. And then finally, the cloaking and obscuration and detection of exotic propulsion craft in our atmosphere. Yes, we have craft. We do. They're not from Alpha Centauri.
Right.
They're from here. And we have plasma life forms. And I have myself seen plasma life forms in the sky in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I have I have seen amazing things scooting through the sky in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Why? I don't know why it was there so clear, but
Yeah,
these
with
are
the plasma, just on that note, I've been
yeah.
kind of getting into that research just slightly recently. Um, yeah, it definitely seems like the orb phenomenon, a lot of this stuff that went on with MK Ultra and like a lot of these different Project Blue Book seem to be studies of like how do we merge all this together? How do we manipulate the mind, get this technology, kind of merge it together in what we're talking about today? And it
Hmm.
seemed like they were studying all that, through that time of
Oh yeah,
brainwashing, etc. And now here we are with the culmination of all of it coming together. And it's no question why we see disclosure happening at the same time as all this other stuff, right? So it's not surprising,
that's
really,
right.
if you think about it.
Oh, and they must have a great deal of fun. I mean, what they
Mm.
call fun, we
Yeah,
probably call evil.
exactly. And then maniacal.
um, I just wanted to see here. Okay, one other thing I want to read just to make sure that you've got it. Uh, it's important to know, especially if you're doing this show, that this calling things research. That does it make it all backwards? Yeah, it does.
No, no, you're
Uh,
good. Yeah.
it's good. It's the 50 U.S. Code 1528 restrictions on use of human subjects for testing of chemical or biological agents. Yeah, they're not supposed to be doing this, but unfortunately, that law that's supposed to protect us has an exception. And if it's any peaceful purpose that is related to a medical, therapeutic, pharmaceutical, agricultural, industrial, or research activity. So,
Yeah.
why did they call HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project? Why did they call it a research project? Only because they wanted to be covered by this imperfect law that allows research.
And it comes down to reasonable harm. As long as it's not, killing you when they do it, then they can test on you. It's just
Exactly.
reasonable harm. And if you mix that with I don't have the paper printed out, but in 2002 in June, they wrote it's called Converging Technologies for Improving Human Performance, which is essentially taking nanotech, biotech, all this stuff. We're going to bring it together and we're going to do exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So for anybody, that's the title for anybody that wants to check that out. It's the whole paper. It was written by the government, so it's official. Yeah.
Say the term again.
Yep. Let me get to it. It says converging technologies for improving human performance.
Yeah.
And it's all the stuff we're talking about now. It's DNA, GMO or mRNA vaccine, all this stuff. The way it's culminated, that started in not to say started in 2002, but it became a full coalition at that
Yeah.
point in time. Yeah.
Right. Good. Good point. So the thing I wanted you to know, and just make sure you do know, is it's cyclotron resonance is a mechanism of action that enables very low strength electromagnetic fields acting in concert with the Earth's geomagnetic field to produce major biological effects by concentrating the energy in the applied field upon specific particles like the biologically important ions of sodium, calcium, potassium, and lithium. This is in the patent for HARP. So, it's important for people to realize that these technologies are purposely made for a range of effects at a distance. And the Robert Becker, great book, Cross Currents, The Perils of Electro Pollution, The Promise of Electromedicine, published in 1990. Becker talked about this and explained it very thoroughly. And then Clifford, he discovered that the potassium ion was being targeted for biological interference over the regions of the Earth's surface. And, this going into these details, like far below where something is being generated and coming down, we need to wake up to the fact now that the tiny can be the most dangerous and the furthest away from us can be the most dangerous. These are things that nature did not teach us. It's up to us to learn these things in order to take care of ourselves. Then Clifford has one really important thing that no, that's not it. Oh, well, this is important. 15% of NATO nations' budgets are set aside for chemtrails and have been since the late 90s. Okay, just so you know, 15% of the budget. Okay, so, and then, yeah, here it is. The artificial ELF propagation, ELF, extra low frequency propagation at 4 Hertz multiples is infused into our modified atmosphere to create the cyclotron resonance I just read about that affects our biologically important ions of sodium, calcium, potassium, and lithium. It all comes from HARP and the HARP system of many ionospheric heaters, smaller than HARP, that now have proliferated around the globe. So at 4 Hertz, okay, if you look at 4 Hertz in looking at the mind control frequencies, 4 Hertz is a dreamlike state of consciousness. And I think that they've been doing the 4 Hertz since at least 2000. So if we're looking at how dumbed down people are, we have to include that as well, because HARP is sending out a pulse of 4 Hertz. And we are resonant beings, wonderfully resonant, which is part of our sensitivity, but is also a weakness. The Chinese have this great saying, the bigger the front, the bigger the back. And that's so true with resonance, because our resonance makes us sensitive, but on the other hand, makes us very vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Manly P. Hall kind of talked a lot about, to your point earlier about this field we have around us. And illness isn't possible if we're vibrating at a resonant at what we're supposed to be vibrating at. But it's this outside EMF waves which are able to penetrate that are then able to disrupt it, scramble it, and then cause illness. and there we are, disease, right? So that's the basis of this whole system, is figured out how to manipulate that, and entropy, right?
And
Entropy. Yeah.
they've scrambled our Schumann resonance,
Yes.
7.83, which is our brain's primary frequency. Generally speaking, I would say that the Schumann resonance is at least, oh gosh, they're amping it up, they're
Yeah.
dragging it down, they're playing around with it.
Well, I can definitely tell my cognitive functions have very much. We've talked about this on the show many times. I'm not operating at the level I was operating pre 2019. And up until then, I'm probably, maybe from my own doing, because I had, a little wild time for a while with different things, drugs, whatever,
Mhm,
probably caused a little, but I've done a lot after that: intellectual work, reading a lot, working on
mhm,
critical thinking, listening to long term, or long form rather, uh, audible works, right? Where it's very dense in information, and training my attention span, training my critical thinking back up. These are things I spent years
yeah,
just naturally, out of my curiosity for wanting to learn information. I realized I had to train myself to be able to learn it again, because my attention span, my memory, my everything was messed up. And even critical thinking, to the point where, a lot of people just read something and that's what they think about that subject now. They just take somebody else's thing and they regurgitate it. The more
right,
you do that, the more you do that, the more you kind of disable that part of your brain, and you got to retrain it. And I found myself doing that. And so I wonder how many other people, right?
yeah.
It's hard to reach people, but probably because they have so much retraining to do in order to even get there on a mental level with you.
Well, and the music that people are listening to, it's not the 440,
Right.
or it
They
is the
changed it
440.
after World
So,
War II.
so that would be enough. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do to adjust your environment
Yeah,
without the feds beating down your door,
exactly.
but it takes planning, and it takes discipline and commitment to do that. So we're not entirely defeated yet, but I must say that with this transhumanism, uh, I definitely moved into high gear when I realized that they were attempting to completely eliminate Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
And if they eliminate Homo sapiens, uh, what will the transhuman hybrid be like? And I don't think we will be able to incarnate or reincarnate anymore. So that
Are you
got
familiar? Are
very,
you familiar
very
with the?
serious.
Are you familiar with the Gnostic teachings? I'm sure you've probably read some Gnostic teachings in
Yeah,
your life.
yeah,
So I've got this theory, and it goes right with what you just said. The Gnostics believe that we live in a prison planet that was created by the demiurgos, and we're stuck here. And I believe that they think they're building this thing so they could live forever. We're already stuck here on a prison planet, so we might as well just live forever. I think it's the opposite. I think that we can get out of here, but you're creating a prison planet on, at the whim of these demiurge, to then have yourself not incarnate, be stuck out of eternal life, and then there you are. You're now stuck in this material prison planet. So I think it's
yeah.
really an inverted lie that's being almost told to them, or that they believe that they're acting off of this on. So they believe they're actually doing good, to an extent.
The
It's very,
elites.
yes, they're very Gnostic, I believe, in their ideologies.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
It's
think
just kind
about
of how
that.
I view it from reading some of their stuff. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
huh, if they believe that we live in a prison planet and they're simultaneously building something that is a digital replica of our whole creation, a lot of Christians would say that this is just the devil trying to recreate God's creation to be like God, right? Well, there's some truth to that, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
there's man that believes, I believe they've been told that they're going to control this digital creation they're creating, but that's not going to be the case. But because they're programming it and creating it, they probably believe that. And so I think there's something to that. With as
Mm-hmm.
far as ideology goes, I think there's something to that.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we got a couple minutes left. Do you want to tell people where they can find you? Where they can find your book? I'd love to have you back on to speak about plasma sometime, because once I get some more research
No,
under
but
my
the
belt
guy
on
that
that.
you should have for plasma. Oh, why am I blocking his name? No, there's someone. I'll send you an email.
Okay. Perfect.
to 6G, a guy you should interview. He's the plasma guy. In fact, I'm reading a really interesting book that he recommended to me. And maybe you already know about this book,
Science of Heaven. No.
The New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple. This is about plasma, how the science of plasma will transform humanity's understanding of its place in the universe.
Okay.
This
Yeah, I got
this
that.
is it.
I just typed it down so I could get that later. I've got my little notepad on my computer.
Yeah,
Perfect.
good,
Yeah,
good.
perfect. All right.
As far as yeah, I have no website right now because I was attacked a couple of years ago, I guess. And I haven't had time or money to get that going. But I have a Patreon site. So I comment every day on all sorts of news items that people send me. Like I have 2,000 emails I'm catching up on now because I was unable to respond to all sorts of people when I was writing. I get a lot of stuff from all over the place, and so I make comment, and I think it's a valuable place, and it's free, or you can pay $10 in order to have the thing sent to your desktop. So there's that, and then for buying my books, uh, sure, evil Amazon has them all. Uh, the ones that I didn't tell you about are a set of novels that I wrote about America since Kennedy's assassination. And it's called Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History. And it has a cult following of maybe, I don't know, maybe 300 people who keep reading the books over and over and studying this and that. And I now have, in the Wayback Machine, I finally found, a friend of mine finally found my bibliography of what I read in order to write those books. And I have that. So if you are a person who has listened to or read the Sub Rosa America series, I now have the bibliography, so I could feasibly send it to you. All right, then otherwise, then the publishers, yeah. And is there anything else I needed to say? I don't think
No,
so.
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of great information. Jeezy Mac said that as well. Thank you, Jeezy Mac, for the super chat, man. We really appreciate you. Everybody enjoyed everything that was listening so far, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I know that.
Yeah,
I'll
great
definitely,
to meet you, Andrew.
I
Very
definitely can't
nice.
wait to read Remaining Human. And yeah, I've got that as the title here, so everybody will. It's your new book coming out, and definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm excited to read that. That's the sequel, right, to the geoengineering transhumans.
Yes, it's the sequel, and I would say companion volume,
Okay,
because the
perfect.
the geoengineered transhuman is much more concentrating on the geoengineering and how it plays into the synthetic biology. And then
Perfect.
it goes into synthetic biology. This book is primarily about synthetic biology with a secondary of the geoengineering.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely companion books then. You needed both. Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting those. And I really appreciate you. And I look forward to maybe talking again next time you write a book, or if you just want to talk about some research you have.
Okay.
Anytime you just reach out. And I really had a pleasure speaking with you.
Great, great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time.